Okay. They told me I got to talk before I get to meet you. It's like, I got to sing for my lunch first. So, go ahead, Danny. Good to be with you.
Likewise. Glad to have you, Governor. And I want to welcome everybody to GCAC's Union City Senior Center. Thank you for coming out to hear the Governor's presentation this morning. I also want to give thanks to Ms. Laura Spade and her team for being the host here at the center. And we have a few acknowledgments. I want to acknowledge Cindy Wells, the Borough Manager, Secretary Seiger from DCED, Trina Kelly from Representative Jake Bounta's office, Senator Dan Laughlin. Also want to acknowledge Kyle Hannon from Senator Casey's office and Selena King from Senator Fetterman's office. Thank you all for coming out and participating today. All right. I'm very glad to have the governor here today and his talk on the broadband, because there's a misconception that a lot of seniors aren't really interested in technology or internet or seeing your grandkids on streaming services. And so I think that's something to be changed, as well as looking at the county efforts. And I really appreciate the governor recognizing the need for seniors to have access to that broadband as well. Continue with the program, I'd like to introduce from GCAC's Adult Education and Digital Literacy Director, Beth Turp.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you, Governor Shapiro, for coming to Union City, to a community close to my heart. This is my hometown, so I am tickled pink to be here today and to talk about GCAC's digital literacy program. When I became program manager in 2020, I saw a need for digital literacy. Every day, getting phone calls. Do you have computer classes? Do you have classes to teach me on my cell phone? Do you have classes to teach me on my tablet? We are in the heart of a pandemic. And when we think about digital literacy and our seniors, that is often a forgotten audience, and that to me is a travesty. So I have been proud to spearhead an initiative at GCAC to get digital literacy programming out into our county and our community, and I am so happy to say that as of the end of this week, we will have had digital literacy services at all 7 of our senior centers in the county, teaching our individuals how to use the tools in their pockets. Cell phones are tools. Just like a screwdriver, a hammer, or a whisk in the kitchen, but we need to be taught to use them. And without being taught, they lay underutilized and really not living up to their potential. You can build anything with a hammer, you can cook anything with a whisk. And a cell phone in your pocket unlocks opportunities for communication, education, even healthcare and employment services. So I am delighted that the Broadband project is coming out this way, knowing for a fact that there are individuals in Union City who do not have internet access, my parents included. So I am delighted and extraordinarily welcome to give Secretary Seeger the mic here to continue talking about this amazing project that I believe is so long overdue, and so excited it is finally coming to fruition.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Your parents are going to be sending you lots of messages.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much, Beth, Danny. Thanks, everybody, for having us today and for the kind words. Not to bury the lead here, Pennsylvania is receiving almost $1.2 billion in federal funding to expand affordable high-speed internet all across the Commonwealth. And this kind of investment really provides us with the resources we need to finally make internet for all a reality. This is a historic investment in our broadband infrastructure, and make no mistake, broadband is an imperative for a strong economy and for strong communities. And this investment will help provide the resources we need to expand access to hundreds of thousands of Pennsylvanians that currently lack it. Our Broadband Development Authority has heard from residents and businesses all across the Commonwealth about how lack of internet access has affected their lives. We've heard from parents in Clearfield County who have to drive their kids to the library or to Sheets to get their homework done. We've heard from EMTs in Adams County who told us about having a patient in a life or death situation and not being able to transmit crucial information to the hospital. We heard from a woman in Cambria County whose veteran husband, suffering with severe PTSD, couldn't access the telehealth services to help him manage his condition. And we've heard from countless Pennsylvanians who have told us that the only way they can get high-speed internet is to pay tens of thousands of dollars out of their own pocket to extend infrastructure to their home. Lack of connectivity has been a problem for people for far too long, and this $1.2 billion in federal funding will help provide the kind of affordable high-speed access that's needed across our Commonwealth and certainly here in Northwest Pennsylvania. So what are the next steps? While our Broadband Development Authority has completed some initial planning, there's a lot of work ahead. But we have federal funding. We're working really hard on a plan to invest this funding effectively and with a relentless focus on execution. We'll be gathering crucial feedback from all Pennsylvanians beginning tomorrow morning to help us shape our plan, and we are committed to finally closing the digital divide that exists in our communities. Under Governor Shapiro's leadership, we will accomplish this task of connecting every Pennsylvanian here in northwestern Pennsylvania and across the Commonwealth. And to talk more about that, I'm deeply honored to introduce Governor Josh Shapiro. Governor.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. It's wonderful to be back in Erie County and to have the opportunity to visit with so many of you. We wanted to come here today to make this extremely important announcement about investing in high-speed, affordable internet. We want to make sure you know how it's going to positively impact your communities. I want to let Beth know when her parents are going to be able to text her and let them know what she needs. And I just wanted the opportunity to share this good news with all of you. I want to thank Danny for welcoming me back. I think this is the second senior center in Erie County we've been at together during my time as governor. I want to thank Beth for her important work that she does every day. I want to thank our secretary, Rick Seiger. He's in charge of economic development work all across, not just Erie County, but all across each of our 67 counties in Pennsylvania. And I want to thank my friend Dan Laughlin, our state senator, for being with us today. We work together in Harrisburg to try and deliver for these communities, and so I appreciate the fact that he took time out of his busy schedule to be with us. So let me talk a little bit about the internet. And if I may, Beth, I'm going to pick up where you left off. You were talking about the importance of that cell phone in your pocket being just as important as a whisk. Now, I'm not a very good cook, but I understand the importance of a whisk. I understand the importance of a cell phone in order to be able to help you make your medical appointments, connect with your grandchildren, be able to know information that's important to you in your community. In short, having high-speed, affordable internet is not a luxury. This is not something that is for just special times or special people or special purposes. This is something that needs to be available to all. We know that with high-speed, affordable, reliable internet, we know that healthcare outcomes are improved. We know that educational outcomes for our children, grandchildren are improved. And we know that our economy does better when everyone's connected to the internet, whether it's a home, a church, a small business, a VFW, or of course a senior center. Positive outcomes come when people are connected to high-speed, affordable internet. But we know, unfortunately, that too many people have been left behind, especially many of Pennsylvania seniors. I don't know if you know this, but 14% of seniors are more likely to not have access to internet than other groups. And we also know that access to internet can have a really positive impact on our seniors, especially when it comes to health. And so it's really important that we make sure our seniors are connected and that every community across Pennsylvania is connected. Now, we live in a Commonwealth of 13 million people, and yet we're a Commonwealth, a state where we have a lot of folks who simply don't have access to internet. I don't know if you know this, but 276,000 households in Pennsylvania don't have access to the internet. That's mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, the kids, you name it, don't have access to high-speed, affordable internet. And another 52,000 don't have access to reliable internet. So taken together, I'm not a whiz-bang at math, but that's about 326,000 households that simply don't have access to the internet. Let me break that down a little further and make it closer to home. Here in Erie County, 5,000 locations, so that's a home or a business, right, are either unserved or underserved. 5,000 just in Erie County alone. In our neighboring Warren County, where I'm heading next, more than 7,500 locations don't have access to the internet. That's a lot of folks just right here in the northwestern corner of our great Commonwealth. And in order for us to really be able to grow our economy, strengthen communities, help our seniors, we got to connect folks to the internet. The good news, and why I'm back here in Erie County today, is to tell you that we're now prepared to do that. So let me explain. Secretary Siger talked before about $1.2 billion coming to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I don't know that anyone in this room can even comprehend what $1.2 billion is, right? You're shaking your head no. So let me drill down a little bit more on the impact of what $1.2 billion is going to mean for you. And if you'll allow me, I'm going to nerd out on you a little bit about the process, but it's important to kind of explain how all this fits together. Okay, so the federal government has an office called the FCC, Federal Communications Commission. And basically what they did was they spent a long time mapping the United States for areas that don't have internet, houses, businesses, etc. They then took their maps and sent them to Pennsylvania many months ago. Under Rick's leadership, Secretary Siger's leadership, we took those maps and we didn't just accept what the federal government gave us. We actually went into local communities here in Erie and all across Pennsylvania and said, okay, is this accurate? If they say 123 Main Street, I'm making up the address, has access to internet, we want to go to 123 Main Street and make sure that they do. And lo and behold, we found some inaccuracies in that federal map. Now that's okay, because we found them. Then what we did after we found those inaccuracies is we went back to the federal government. We said, thanks for those maps, but there's some inaccuracies and we need to fix those inaccuracies. And so let me tell you what happened when we did that. In Erie County alone, we found 175 households that the federal government thought had internet, but we found out didn't. And so we said, well, we'd like a little bit more money for those 175 households. The good news is we got it. In Warren County, it's really important to note there, we added 6,711 more households to Warren County to get access to the internet, meaning there were some real inaccuracies there. And in fact, that's more than any other county in Pennsylvania in terms of the added households and places that we were able to put on that map. Okay, so we know we have 1.2 billion. We had these inaccuracies. Let's begin to look at what that means. We added those homes, we added those businesses to the map. So now we are in a position where we have a complete map of the areas that are unserved or underserved. And so now what does $1.2 billion mean? What that is enough federal funding combined with the other resources that local governments and the state government has already put in to connect all of those homes, all of those businesses across Pennsylvania. That's why that $1.2 billion matters, because it now gives us enough money to connect those we need to connect across the Commonwealth. So now that you understand what the $1.2 billion is, I'm sure the next question you have is, okay, when am I getting my internet, right? So let me explain how that works. Now that we've got these maps, Secretary Siger and his team have been working on the plan, right? Where are we going to put a tower? Where are we going to run the cables? Where are we going to do all the different infrastructure work? And when are we going to do that? That plan has to go to the federal government for their approval. They have to stamp an approval. Now, before you moan and groan and think it's going to take 10 years for them to do that, they're actually in a position where they can approve our plan and other states' plans by the end of this year or early next year. And so that's going to put us in a position, as soon as we get that approval, to be able to go and start rolling out all of the infrastructure work and laying all the cables and doing all the tower work. Now, your next question should be, okay, great, Gov, we've got the towers, we got the cables. How do I get to plug into my house and get internet that's high speed that I can afford? Well, all the infrastructure work they're doing is going to require that the internet be high speed, okay? So any of you who are struggling with low speed, DSL, dial-up, all that kind of stuff, that'll be a thing of the past when this is done. In addition to that, there are programs available to seniors, to low-income folks, and others all across Pennsylvania to make sure that the internet is affordable. There are communities I go to, especially in rural communities in Pennsylvania, where they'll say to me, we can get high-speed internet, but it's like $1,000 a month. It's not affordable. The good news is part of this funding allows there to be kind of subsidizing for internet to make sure that it's affordable. So we're going to have the infrastructure. We're going to make sure it's high speed. We're going to have resources available to make it affordable. So now your final question should be, when is it my turn? Well, we are going to be, once we get the approval from the federal government, end of this year, early next year, we're going to be launching a website in Pennsylvania that will show when we're coming to your neck of the woods. Meaning, if you're in this county or this region, you're going to know when that infrastructure work is going to be done. Now, we're not waiting on that right now to go out and hire people and get them ready to go. We've actually been training workforce to be able to do this work. So when we get that approval, we're going to be rocking and rolling and getting this work done. Secretary Siger and his team estimate that to get everybody connected, it's going to take somewhere between 4 and 5 years. Doesn't mean that you're going to be waiting 4 or 5 years to get internet, but in order to make sure we capture all of the 325,000 or so households and businesses across Pennsylvania, that's roughly how long it will take. Think about this for a minute, and I know the Senator works on all kinds of economic development projects, and we're working on a big one together right now, in fact. There are a lot of good ideas out there in government where we'll spend a bunch of time thinking about stuff, and we'll have a plan, and the public will sign off on it, and everybody's excited, and then guess what happens at the end? There's no money for it, right? Or there's money, but no one can agree on a plan. What's really special about this is the internet is essential. We have to have it. We all understand that and agree. We have the funding now to do this work, and we have a plan, and we have the personnel and the know-how to be able to do this. And so now it's just a matter of time of executing it. And once we execute it, then we know we're going to be in a really strong position to have better healthcare outcomes, better outcomes for our kids, and a stronger economy in Pennsylvania. So I just wanted you to get that update directly from me about where we are and where we're headed. And I want you to know, as your governor, I've been at this about 6 months. I've been working my tail off for the good people of Pennsylvania, especially here in northwestern Pennsylvania. We're doing a lot for our seniors. In fact, and some other good news, we'll come back and talk about this more later, but I heard you loud and clear when I was campaigning that we needed property tax rent rebate relief, right? We needed higher relief, and we needed more seniors to be able to qualify for that relief. Good news is we got that done in the first 6 months. We were able to take our rebate up to $1,000 and add 175,000 more seniors who are going to qualify for the relief. The other good news is it passed in the Senate, it passed in the House, bipartisan, and pretty soon the Senate will come back from their summer recess. They're going to send me the bill. I'm going to sign it into law, and we're going to be able to deliver that relief for you in time for your next tax season in the spring. So really good things happening for our seniors, from making sure you're getting property tax relief to making sure you're getting access to broadband. And I just wanted to have the opportunity to come here today and share that good news with all of you. So thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to coming to visit with you. Before that, I want to ask any of the folks in the media if they have any questions for us. We're happy to answer that, and then we'll come around and get some time to talk. So thank you all very much for having me today. Appreciate it. Let me see if there's any questions from the media.
Mr. Governor, from an economic standpoint, just how much of a disadvantage is it, particularly in rural parts of our Commonwealth that are underserved or unserved by the internet?
Look, we see a negative economic impact when folks aren't connected to the internet in a number of different ways on the economic side. Small businesses unable to sell more of their product, unable to attract more visitors, customers, clients to come in and shop with them or use their services. We see it in other ways too. Our healthcare institutions, particularly in rural communities, get held back when physicians can't consult with other experts about an x-ray or about a diagnosis because they don't have access to the internet. We see it with job seekers all the time, not being able to seek out a job or put themselves in a position to be more competitive when it comes to getting that job. All of that goes away when people are connected to high-speed, affordable internet. It's a great equalizer in our economy, and it gives us a chance to lift everyone up. And that's why we're working so hard to deliver these services to the good people of Pennsylvania.
We've seen in some parts of the Commonwealth that rural electric co-ops have actually managed to get funding and run fiber to customers who otherwise would have no internet to speak of. Is that something your administration is considering using some of this money for, because they have the existing infrastructure?
Yeah, all of the work on the infrastructure side is going to be coordinated with local officials, local authorities, internet service providers, and others who are on the ground. We're going to be driving out the resources through them. So if you live in an area with a particular internet service provider that already has a lot of infrastructure but just needs to finish the job, we'll probably work with them. If there are a number of them, we'll try and work with all of them. It'll be a competitive process. It's really important that we build on existing infrastructure to help speed the process up and get the resources out quickly.
Governor, is there any element of this investment that is going to an ultra high speed, like a gigabit type of connection like you might see in Chattanooga and other places that have really made the investments?
Different internet service providers offer different packages. Some of them offer the gig speed and what have you. The key here is to make sure that we have a bare minimum that is high speed, and then have other options for consumers beyond that. It'll be a consumer choice issue. If they're happy with 100 download, that's okay. If someone needs a gig, then the infrastructure will be there in most places to give them that option.
Why is it so important for you to meet and visit with constituents that will benefit from these changes?
Well, first off, I thought I was going to get a donut here at the Senior Center, so that was really why I came. But second off, look, seniors are negatively impacted, as I talked about before, by a lack of high-speed internet connections in their homes, in their senior centers, and elsewhere. So I wanted to come right to a community that doesn't have access, across the board, and let them know that help is on the way. It's always helpful for me to come and hear from you, hear what's on your mind, and get the chance to interact with my fellow Pennsylvanians. And I just wanted a good excuse to get back to northwestern Pennsylvania. So thank you.
Sir, I want to ask you about your budget.
Sure.
Where does that stand? Any word on getting closer toward a deal? Because we're seeing effects here where some school districts are passing higher tax rates because they don't know what's coming from Harrisburg.
Sure. Well, the good news is we don't need a deal. The budget has already passed. It passed in the Senate. It passed in the House. Bipartisan support. The budget has so much good in there for economic development, public safety, historic investments in education, all the things that I talked about on my campaign. We delivered on those commitments, as well as the biggest tax break for our seniors in about 2 decades. The budget, after it passes in the House and Senate, the governor has to sign it into law. Now, there's a little bit of a technical issue where, in order for me to sign it, the Senate literally has to deliver it to me. It's part of the rules. You're making a face, I know, but that's actually how it works. And the only person who can actually deliver the bill to me is what's called the Senate Pro Tem. That's the leader of the Senate. And so far, she has said that the Senate's not going to reconvene until mid-September in order to do that. That's really unfortunate because the budget's already passed. Now, what's the effect of her waiting until September? That means about $6 billion in funding for our school children, $6 billion in funding for human services programs and others. We can't send that money out. I've urged the Senate, I'm not in any way picking on Senator Laughlin, it's not his decision, but I've urged the Senate to come back and just do its simple job. By the way, it will take literally 1 minute for them to hand me the bill, and then I'll be able to sign it and deliver these billions of dollars in relief. It's really, frankly, simple. So there's no problem with a budget deal. The budget's already passed. It's more of an administrative thing that the Senate Pro Tem, the leader of the Senate, is required to do, and so far she's refused to do that. I've been urging her to change her mind, and hopefully she will, and we'll get the resources out to our communities across Pennsylvania. Okay? So I'm going to come and get the chance to visit with you. Thank you all very much for being here today. Appreciate it. Thank you.